Forged among stars.
Here we are, back once again. Let's begin a session. A flashback reveals an aspect of your background or nature. Okay. And it says, recap the last session a bit. So Hawking Duval retrieved the device or object that the personnel of Lodestar Station wanted from the derelict spacecraft that had crashed on the planet Thule. He returned with the brain in the jar that belonged to apparently the precursors, and he was surprised. The Radiant Wraiths, an enemy faction, was there on Lodestar, and Hawking Duval unwittingly swore an iron vow to settle the dispute between Lodestar and the Radiant Wraiths, but he did not know the Radiant Wraiths only settled disputes by formal duels. So now he is being asked to participate in a duel on behalf of Lodestar Station. But before we can dive into today's session, I just rolled a flashback reveals an aspect of your background or nature. Let's go over here to assets. I spent some experience last time, and I purchased Veteran for Hawking Duval because I had established in his background, just story-wise in fiction, that he had been in war a few times, and he had claimed the Shard of the Sun as a spoil of one of those conflicts. So let's imagine a quick flashback for Hawking Duval, and we'll use his path as Veteran to establish that he has seen war. So let's go back in time, about 10 years. Hawking Duval is riding a hoverbike with 5 other young men across a blasted plain. There is war damage everywhere, craters created by bombs, rubble and debris from homes now strewn about. They expertly drive through the debris. A mist hovers across the battlefield that is now quiet, eerily quiet. But then in the distance, sounds of war, bombs, and gunshots, and screams and yells of soldiers as Hawking Duval and the other young men with him make their way through this eerie scene. Suddenly, an explosion nearby. Hawking is thrown from his hoverbike, and he hits the packed earth hard, and then rolls down into a bomb crater. His ears ring from the sound, his eyes burning with sunbursts playing all before his vision. The sound of war is now close upon him. He reaches for a weapon. His rifle is gone, but a sidearm is there, and he pulls it. He crawls to the top of the crater, his hearing and vision somewhat returning to him, and he peers over the edge of the crater. Those young men he fought with are all dead. The rubble, the charred remains of their bodies are intermingled with the remains of the hoverbikes. He whips his head around and looks in another direction, and there he sees, coming through the mist, men dressed in full fireproof suits, wielding flamethrowers. He raises his weapon and fires. There is a bit of a flashback from Hawking Duval's younger days when he saw war. But now we flash forward, back to the present. Hawking Duval stands in a landing bay. The Shard of the Sun is behind him, and in front of him now are 3 members of the personnel of Lodestar: Vagabond, Blackbird, and Ogre. And next to them are 6 shrouded figures from the faction Radiant Wraiths. And Hawking Duval has just sworn an iron vow to settle the dispute between these 2 factions. And it means he must face a Radiant Wraith in combat, in a formal duel. Hawking Duval calms himself and realizes he's led himself into a trap. And he looks at the one that he perceives to be the leader of the Radiant Wraiths, the one shrouded figure who has been speaking. And he says to him, well, I trust that I am allowed a time to recover. I have been on a very difficult mission. The leader of the Radiant Wraiths nods. It is a formal duel. All the combatants are expected to be at peak physical condition. There will be 3 weeks given so you can prepare, and our champion can prepare. And then Hawking notices this shrouded figure. He motions toward Vagabond, and he says, the gracious leadership of Lodestar has already offered their main atrium as an arena for the duel. And Hawking Duval once again feels his emotions rising and his anger bubbling within him. They knew about the duel. That explains the look on Vagabond and Blackbird's face and Ogre's wicked smile. They had preyed upon his good nature and his generosity. They had hoped he would swear an iron vow, and now he was trapped by it. Hawking Duval slowly takes his eyes off of the Radiant Wraith leader and looks to Vagabond and Blackbird and Ogre. And he eyes them hard eyes that have seen a trouble or two. And he says, well, I assume my compensation for retrieving the object will be handed over to me shortly. Vagabond is quick. Of course. Anything you need, you have it. Hawking controls himself. Thank you, Vagabond. I hope you understand that for this new matter, I shall times my diplomatic fee by 10, and I will expect half up front. And Vagabond and Blackbird quickly agree. Of course, absolutely. Agreed. Ogre just has a shadow pass over his face, but is still a wicked smile. Then Hawking Duval looks back to the Radiant Wraith, and he says, I also expect that I will be informed of all the formal requirements of the duel, and that I will be able to meet my combatant beforehand, as well as train with the weapon involved and explore the dueling arena. The Radiant Wraith nods and says, of course. Those are all part of the requirements. We have been doing this for a very long time. All requirements will be messaged to you, and you will have plenty of time to inspect the weapons, the combat area, and you will meet our champion at least a week and a half before the duel. Hawking thinks to himself that this is all quite orderly, and that a lot of this discussion must have been going on while he was away on the planet, risking his life for Lodestar. So Hawking Duval then says, I will await your message. He looks back to Vagabond and Blackbird, who are still squirming a bit, and Ogre under that wicked smile playing across his face. And he says, if you will excuse me, gentlemen, I am going to retire. And the Radiant Wraith leader does an expansive gesture and says, by all means. And Vagabond and Blackbird both talk in unison. Of course, get some rest. And Hawking Duval turns, walks back to the Shard of the Sun, hits the landing ramp button, waits for it to descend without looking back, boards the Shard of the Sun, and quickly closes the ramp. Hawking Duval stands in the little vestibule area. Vestibule, that's a pretty fancy word. Like the staging area of where people would group to then disembark the Shard of the Sun. So he stands there a moment. He rests his hand on one of the walls and he just lowers his head. He is so tired, and he has just seen so much death and destruction that he is feeling dejected and a little bit despondent. But he then raises up takes his hand off the wall, straightens his coat, and he marches back into the main area of the Shard of the Sun, and he enters the galley, and Dancer, Scout, and Hellhound are still in there, playing a game. They turn and look to him. Dancer notices something on Hawking's face, as does Scout. Dancer says, "Everything go okay?" And Hawking says, yeah, it went okay. And Scout smiles, kind of a wry smile, and she says, "Hawking, you're lying." Hawking just wonders at this young girl who has now become like a little sister to him, and that he has grown very fond of and very close to in the recent days. And he says, "Yes, Scout, your emotional intelligence is quite high. I did lie. Things aren't really fine." And then Hellhound, this person that he just doesn't even know yet, this whipcord of a woman who is thin and wiry and strong, just says, "Well, then what is it?" Hawking says, "I just swore an iron vow to settle a dispute with the Radiant Wraiths." Scout looks kind of puzzled. Hellhound raises her eyebrows and she kind of sits back in her chair. And Dancer cries out, "You did what? The Radiant Race required duels to settle disputes." And Hawking nods and says, "Quite right. I just found that out." Dancer is just like, "You have got to be kidding." And Scout then becomes concerned and she's like, "What? You have to fight?" And Hellhound just kind of lowers her head and is just like, "Oh my goodness." And then Dancer just cries out, "What are you going to do?" And Hawking says, "What do you think I'm going to do? I'm going to fight to resolve this dispute." And then Dancer continues, "But the Radiant Wraiths train an entire class of people just to fight these duels. You don't stand a chance. This is what they do. They go around places and rope people into these things." And Hawking's like, "Well, it worked. It worked really well because now I'm in it. And I swore an iron vow. You know I can't break that." Dancer responds, "Well, what did the people of Lodestar have to say? Vagabond, Blackbird?" Hawking just kind of rubs his head and he's just like, "What do you think they said? They withheld the information from me. They wanted me to swear the vow. Well, they got it." And Dancer is just like, "Oh my gosh, I hope you're being paid well." And Hawking Duval says, Yeah, I am. I'm not that foolish." And then Dancer, she stands up from the game and she kind of paces and says, "Well, we have to get you ready. How much time do we have?" And Hawking Duval says, "We have 3 weeks." And then Hawking Duval and his newfound friends all agree that he must be prepared to fight a formal duel. Now I am going to have to make a series of moves to represent this 3 weeks that passes in fiction. So we'll start out with those, and then I will narrate some pieces along the way. But first, we're going to come up here, and we're going to look at supply and health and spirit. We need to get these higher, so Hawking is physically ready for this duel. We're going to come over to moves, and I'm going to look at some of these right here. So these are recover moves. So I'm going to look at this. Now, as the series goes on, I'm going to stop explaining what these moves and stuff are. I'm just going to do the move and explain the result. I think that's how I'm going to proceed. If you don't like that, let me know in the comments below if you want me to keep reading some of the moves. If you don't, let me know that too. But I think I'm going to try to stop. But right here, we'll look at resupply. So Hawking's supply is down. It has some various roles, but here is something that is different about this situation. So this is if you are just going in to someplace and trying to resupply. Hawking is not doing that in the strictest sense. Hawking is being paid in supplies and work on the ship. This game does not have a way to represent money. It's just an abstract concept. So what I'm going to do is I am just going to say, since Lodestar pays him for bringing back that object, the brain in the jar, that he's just going to get an automatic strong hit on the resupply roll, which is take +2 supply. He only needed a +1, but that sets him at +5 supply. His spirit and health rely on other moves as well. So we're going to come over here, and I am going to look at Sojourn, because this is when you stay someplace for a long time. And I will also look at Heal and Hearten and Repair, because his vehicle was damaged. So let's look at Sojourn. When you spend time recovering with a community, roll Heart. On a strong hit is a safe refuge. You and your allies may choose 2 recover moves, Heal, Hearten, Repair, or Resupply, instead of rolling, and assume an automatic strong hit for each. An individual move can be taken more than once. A weak hit. Time is short. Resources are strained. You and your allies make 1 recover move. On a miss, choose 1. The community needs your help. Makes a costly demand in exchange. So that's bad. That is really bad. I think I am going to go ahead and roll Sojourn, just so I can get strong hits on health and spirit, and still follow some of the rules. I know I'm playing a little loose and fast, but we're having fun. Hopefully we're having fun. No modifiers, just rolling with heart. Strong hit. Woo! That's what I needed. So I can choose 2 recover moves with strong hits. So let's go over here. Let's do heal. Strong hit. Hawking is healed. Or wait a minute. Let's look at Hearten first, because Hearten affects your spirit, and I may need more spirit points than I do health points, but we'll check, because I got 2. I can do Hearten twice if I need to. So let's see. On a strong hit, you find companionship or comfort. Your spirit is strengthened. If you are shaken, clear it. I'm not. Otherwise, take 2 spirit. If this move is as you sojourn, take +1 more. So I get +3 to spirit. So this is very good. So I'm at 2. That moves me to a 5. So then I will come back over here, and I will go to heal. I get an automatic strong hit. That is +3. I only need a +1. His spirit is rejuvenated, and his health is fully returned, because I have a feeling I am going to need every bit of this. Okay, now there are a few other things that I would like Hawking to do to get out of the way before we do this duel. So please hang in here as a fight is coming up, I hope. We'll see how that works. I have a number of things down here in the notes section that I don't know what to deal with yet, but we're going to keep those. You can read those if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're listening on Spotify, head over to YouTube and you will see those. Just dicegeeks, at dicegeeks, YouTube. And like I said, there are a few things I need to take care of. I'm going to come over here to vows. So he has this settle the dispute between Lodestar and the Radiant Wraiths. I don't think he has made any progress here just yet. We will maybe mark a milestone before the 3 weeks. Yeah, that seems about right. Let's hold off on that a second. And I need to imagine some things that are happening. So Hawking, obviously he's being healed. He is enjoying the company of his friends on the Shard of the Sun. He has become very close to Scout, who is Ozzy, who is like his little sister. And maybe Hawking has a little sister, or had one. And that's why their relationship has grown so fast, because every time I roll develop a relationship with Hawking and Scout, I get a match. So I'm thinking that whole little sister thing. So he spends time with them. He gains his spirit back. He is heartened. He is strengthened that way. Lodestar pays him quite a large fee for returning that object. They also resupply the ship. And I'm going to say they do a couple other things. I'm going to go over here to the rover, and I'm going to say that they just repair it. Like I said, I know I'm playing a little fast and loose with the rules here, but he got it from here and it was damaged. And since we don't have money in this system, I think that's what they would do. So they repair the rover. The Outrider which is cool. So I think they do that. So actually, that leads me back over here, that he is spending 3 weeks in pretty close quarters with Dancer, Scout, and Hellhound. So I am going to develop a relationship with all of them. So we are bonded. We don't mark progress. Instead, we roll their rank to learn the impact on our legacy. So we will see what happens here. So let's go back to connections. He shares a bond with Dancer, Echo Car, who they call Echo and Hawking because they've shared their dirt side names. We are going to roll with their rank using Heart. So Echo is dangerous, so that is +2. So we'll go back over here. We'll hit Heart. We get a +2. We'll submit a strong hit. Very nice. So let's go back and see what that is. On a strong hit, I mark 2 ticks on my Bonds legacy track. So there's 2. So that was Echo. Now we will roll for Scout. She is now formidable. So we're going to roll +3. If I get another match, I am going to freak out because I've been going with little sister vibes. So I don't know what's going to happen. If I keep rolling matches, I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to advance their relationship or something like that. Let's see if I get a strong hit with a match. Okay, well, I didn't get a match, but I did get a strong hit. So let's look at what that means again. Strong hit, 2 more ticks on my legacy bonds. Is that a full box? Yeah, that's a full box. So I get 2 more experience points? Holy smokes. And Hawking is almost able to make a settlement if I get 4 boxes in there. And we actually have some more connections coming. So now we're going to go down to Hellhound. Now, he doesn't share a bond. So I believe I just marked progress. Yep, I just marked progress on their bar. So there, Hellhound is now at 8 out of 10 on the progress bar. So that is very good. Now, what this kind of looks like is the Dancer is an investigator, and she apparently knew who the Radiant Wraiths were. So I think that Dancer and Hawking just like work through all the regulations of the duel. So Hawking knows the formal rules, right? This is a formal duel. There's a lot of pomp and circumstance involved in this combat. It's not just 2 guys punch each other. There's a lot of cultural significance all tied up in this. And so he works with Dancer, or Echo, as they call each other by their first names, and they work together, and she helps fill him in on all of those details. Scout just keeps his spirits up, and she is a healer, so she probably healed him some more and did some more medical treatments on him. And he just draws a lot of energy from Scout because they have grown close over these last few days and weeks. And Hellhound, kind of the same, but she's more, I know she's an engineer, but it's just a little bit more like, okay, now when he's in here, you got to get him like this. And she's more talking about psyching Hawking up, getting him ready for the fight itself, which I think is kind of fitting. So I may in a bit imagine some scenes of those 3 weeks, but right now we're going to move on. I think he is going to develop his relationship with the members of Lodestar as well, because he just returned the item. He's just sworn this vow, and they are getting to know each other, although Hawking is not happy with them. So let's look at Blackbird. Let's mark progress there. Let's mark progress. Did it mark progress? No. Okay. So let's mark progress manually. And then Ogre as well. He doesn't know what to do about Ogre yet. How I picture those relationships developing, like I said, he's already sworn vows to them. He's already rescued their personnel. He's already got them the brain in the jar. He got Ogre the mineral sample, and now he's going to fight this duel. So it just kind of goes on and on that he is developing the relationship there with them. Okay, so I've come over here to vows. We see that Hawking has quite a few vows. He has his background vow to return to Celadon. He has 2 there. Search the vault on Thule, to survey the entire ship on Thule, and to now settle this dispute. Because I am insane, I'm going to have Hawking swear another vow. And so how I imagine this going down is one night Hawking is in his captain's quarters. He is looking at the written records that he found on board the derelict that was on Thule. He sees all these symbols and this writing that he can't read. He doesn't even know if he has the records upside down, backwards, or whatever. He doesn't know. But he knows that Monarch knows. And so he's looking at this writing and he says in his mind, Monarch, I need to learn the language of the precursors. And Monarch's whisper comes, it is very difficult, Hawking, very difficult. And Hawking replies, I understand, Monarch, but I have to. Very well. And Hawking then responds, can you teach it to me? And Monarch says, perhaps, but I do not know. Then Hawking Duval says, well, you must try. And Monarch replies, I will do so. And Hawking Duval swears an iron vow to learn the precursor language. And it's probably extreme. What do you think? Extreme? Formidable? I don't know if I'm ever going to finish this game. I just don't even know. Let's make it formidable. I already have several extreme ones. I don't know how I'm going to do that. Well, actually, and while I'm here, I'm thinking about some milestones for the settled dispute between Lodestar and the Radiant Wraiths. This 3-week period. How I'm imagining this is that Hawking will meet his combatant and he will explore the arena and he will study or train some combat techniques. Oh, he'll be given the weapon or shown what weapon he can use. And so I'm going to say we get a little bit of progress, because if we rolled it right now, we would miss, of course, most likely. But I'm going to mark, say, 2 boxes for this preparation phase of settling the dispute, because I really don't know how to do this, because theoretically, if he wins the combat, do I mark all of it? Will I mark progress here during the duel? I'm not sure. I think he's hit a couple milestones, though, here. At least 2 to push him closer to this goal that the Radiant Wraiths can see that he's not chickening out and that he is preparing. So I think those are pretty good. We do have to swear an iron vow. So write your vow, give it a rank, roll heart. If this vow is to a connection, add 1. If you share a bond, add 2. It's to himself or it's to Monarch, but Monarch's not a connection. He's a companion. I don't know. Should I give him a +1? Am I cheating? I think I should give him a +1. I might be cheating, but let's see. Jeez. A weak hit. Well, it didn't even really help. So let's see what a weak hit says on the vow. Okay, so a weak hit, I take 1 momentum, which is nice because I need to get this built up as much as I can before this fight. And it says envision what you do to find a path forward. So what I'm thinking is that, this is super difficult because Monarch can only talk to Hawking in bits and pieces. And he's always claiming that Hawking won't understand certain things. So Hawking just realizes that probably 2 nights a week or 3 nights a week that he has to pore over these written records that he has found and search any computer data or any available histories or anything like that on the language itself, while occasionally being able to call on Monarch to help. So we envision this idea that Hawking is now setting aside time during the week to do this study and this research. And it may affect how things happen in the future, which I think it will. I am going to spend some more experience. This time we're going to look at the ship really quickly, and we'll look at some options for the ship. And I just talked about research. Will Hawking need a research lab? Let's see what that looks like. Now, I haven't purchased it yet. I am just looking at it. When you use your lab to secure an advantage or gather information through careful analysis or experimentation, add 1, take 1 momentum on a hit. When you take on a long-term project, oh, that's quite interesting. It's more for science-y things. Is there a library or a computer? An overseer? Sensors, shields, workshop? No. I mean, that's the closest thing, is a research lab. Should I buy a research lab? It seems like I should also buy a med bay, so Scout will have somewhere to practice medicine. Let's see what a med bay says. When you use your med bay to heal yourself or another patient, you may re-roll action die if value is less than your vehicle's integrity. That's a strange one. I don't know if this would help Scout because she's not a player character. So I could just pretend she has a med bay at that rate, right? All right, let's look at something else. Reinforced hull. I like it. Heavy cannons, shields. That'd be nice. Stealth. You know, actually, I am going to take reinforced hull. So how I imagine this is that this is part of his payment from Lodestar, that he just asks and says, yeah, I need a reinforced hull on my vessel. And they're like, done. And so that's how I like to work this into fiction, because I've already established they can do work on ships. I like to give it a reason in fiction that he is able to do this. All right, so -3. How did I end up with an odd one? How did I end up with 9? Because it was 8 plus 2. How did I end up with 9? I'm not a math whiz. Okay, so there is that. I'm going to come back to Hawking's and just double check. I've already increased Monarch. I'm going to flavor this too. Monarch has to grow in power to teach Hawking the language. He also has to grow in power, and he is giving Hawking this ability to jump back in time just a second or two to see if it will save his life, which I like. Should we get another asset pack, or should we get something else for the ships like cannons? I was thinking about cannons, guys. Should I get cannons? Let's go look at cannons. When you aim your cannons and use them to strike, choose one. Strafing run, add 1, take 1 momentum. Focus fire, mark progress on a hit, but lose momentum. Oh, those are some interesting things. But the ship is already armed. Let's see if there is one more thing maybe we could look about on the ship. I could get an AI overseer, but Lodestar shuns AI, and so do we as a society. So I'm not going to do that because it wouldn't make any sense. We've already done an internal refit. Let's look at this, and maybe we can see here if there's anything cool we can do. Oh, wow. When we enter fray with an internal refit, it's amazing. Upgrading the Outrider might be interesting as well. Ooh, I can put a module on it if I get it here at no extra cost. Nice. But it would cost me 2 points to buy that. Face danger, crashing through an obstacle. Interesting. The ship itself. Oh, hey, that's fun. When you finish an expedition and score a hit, my tie is strengthened to the ship. We get some ticks on the Legacy Bonds track. I like that one. I'm going to buy that one. So that's -2. So am I doing this math right? How did I end up with an odd one? Oh, Jiminy. So I just spent 5 points. Yes, I bought that. Reinforced hull. So 21. Is that right? Am I doing this math right, guys? I can't wait for the comments. All the laugh crying memes and emojis in there. Because now it's odd. Wouldn't it all be even? Anyway. Whatever. I'm all confused. So I've done those two. I think I am going to come back to assets and think about some things. Although keeping those points might be interesting. I don't know what fits Hawking over here yet. Very interesting stuff. Oh, that was just a mistake. Okay. I'm sorry, guys. I'm wasting so much time with this. Okay, I think I'm going to hold those 7 points. And if some situation arises, I may buy a second ability underneath one of my paths or buy a new path. But this is good right now. So we'll go with that. So here's what I imagine. The 3 weeks passed. Lodestar pays Hawking. They resupply him. They do work on his vessel. Hawking and his friends work on different ways that they can prepare Hawking for this combat. Hawking then at one point is allowed to go into the atrium on Lodestar where this combat area has been prepared. I'm imagining a large dome, and that it is ringed around with trees that are somehow kept alive. Hawking still wonders at this. And in the center is a place where people would normally gather, or Lodestar could have events. It's not very large because Lodestar only has dozens of people on it, but it is larger than you would think. And along with the theme of Lodestar being exquisitely designed, it is gorgeous. And they have set up stands around the outside of the ring, and they have built a raised platform on which the combat will take place. Hawking is allowed to tour this. He is able to feel the area. He's able to jump on it, roll on it, see what it feels like, see how he can react and move on it. Then he is shown the weapon that they will be using. And I am imagining it is a knife type weapon, but the handle is horizontal and there are 2 blades on either side. And so Hawking is able to take that weapon and he is able to practice with it. And then a week and a half before the combat, he is able to meet his opponent. And his opponent is a young man who is probably 25 to 28 years old. And he is absolutely jacked, but in kind of a cat-like way, very agile, but he is all muscle. And Hawking is quite impressed. And this also makes him want to train even harder to prepare for this encounter, even though Hawking Duval is pretty in shape already. So those things transpire, and it comes up to the day before the duel is to take place, and we will end the session there. Let's go over to end session. Okay, we already did develop relationship once. We did reach... Did we reach a milestone? You know, I don't know if this is cheap, guys. Let me know in the comments if you think I'm cheating. I'm trying to do this right. I think he's made another milestone to at least get this close to the combat. And then we'll mark some boxes during the combat. If Hawking survives the combat, that is. So the end session is also a +1 to momentum, which is great, that Hawking needs. Develop relationship, we already did that. So I think we are good there. And next time, we will see if Hawking Duval can survive.
Thank you for listening to Forged Among Stars.